we have to create the right vibe, you know, the energy, and everybody at the organization has to feel so privileged to be here. It's no other way.
Thanks for listening to the Purely Arsenal podcast. Please follow us on Twitter at Purely Arsenal FP for all the latest Arsenal podcasts.
Welcome to another edition of a Purely Arsenal sit-down podcast. We're to review the 1-1 draw at Fulham. Disappointing. I've got Neil Shah to discuss it with me. More points dropped. Neil, very frustrating. How are you?
I am, well, less can be said about our performance, but let's give it a go, eh? Let's give it a go. Well, we lost another few players, you know. We don't get to a game without losing more. It was Zinchenko this time. If you thought he hadn't been back, you missed it. He was, you blinked and he'd gone again. I don't know what, we've got some sort of contagious thing going around our left backs and full backs in general. But it does seem like the injuries are quite, I think Mikel Arteta is almost trying to prove a point. He's saying, this is why I buy 6 left backs. This is why. And it is quite incredible, I have to say. I mean, in a way, you had one of your back 4 out there because Timber was playing left back, and you know he's probably better at right back, certainly this season, I think. So you had one of your first choice back 4 out there. But I don't want to really delve too much into the lineup, though. It might come up later on in the pod, because I think a couple of people have had issues with the reasoning behind, once Zinchenko was out, I saw a lot of arguments from people saying, you know, why should we have to remove our right-hand pod, basically, in order to, just because Zinchenko's out. From my perspective, I do think his hands were a little bit tired, and I say that with 2 possible left backs on the bench. I mean, we'd had Tomiyasu out, Calafiori out, Zinchenko out. I think at that point, I probably would expect Timber left back, Partey right back, given what had happened this season already. But I understand where people are coming from, but they don't want to change something that's really, really good. I also think it's a slight sign of what Mikel Arteta is like, in that he kind of thinks about the defensive security first, right? And a lot of people might have gone, I'll just keep Timber on the right and just play Lewis Skelly on the left, you know, that kind of thing. And he's not that type of manager. He's not going to do that. He's going to look for what is my most stable back 4 that I can possibly provide with the options that are available to me, rather than, you know, can I keep the attacking flow going? And I think that, in a bigger picture, is maybe a conversation that we'll get into, because we are going to talk about chances and things like that. Now, overall, I mean, it was a game that we did deserve to win on the basis of the play. I think the way we created things and our build-up can be frustrating, but we created about 2.0 expected goals. They had 0.11, which is, I can't even explain how minute amount that is, but they had 2 shots on goal. I don't really remember the second one. I think it was late on, and Raya kind of palmed it away from a tight angle. But otherwise, they literally had their one chance, which was a goal. Now, we did start really quite fast, despite the fact we weren't creating a lot, which was a sign of things to come in terms of open play anyway. I just wondered, obviously really disappointing. Well, what 1-1, anything other than wins now, we've set ourselves so far back that anything other than wins now is just really disappointing. Our away form does concern me a little bit, but I think now we've got all of our attacking players fit. What concerns me more is maybe the way we create chances, and when we go down, I've got this sort of dread in my mind of, I know exactly what this game's going to be like. It's really going to be predictable, and we tend to sort of rely on set pieces, which we did in this game, Neil. And I don't think you can win titles like that, can you? No, God, not there. You said. Can I just go back on a couple of things to start with? I think the other chance was where Raya almost cleared it with his leg.
Yeah.
In the near post.
Late second half, though, right?
Yeah. And that's it. That, and then the goal. They had 2 shots on target, and one was a goal and one was that, and that's it. So yeah, there you go. And then just for me, I'm kind of with the other group of people that you were talking about. I I have been calling for and wary to play and get more minutes for a long time, and he doesn't seem to do it. He still doesn't seem to do it. I get it at the moment because we've got Odegaard, and it worked, didn't it? Look, we scored 15 goals in 4 games or whatever it was, and we were flying again, and it was fine. So yeah, if it's not broken, don't mend it. Things were going okay. But in this case, it wasn't more so about him, but as you mentioned, one of the players, Skelly. We've also even got Tierney on the off. Was he in the subs pitch? I can't recall.
Yeah, he was. He has been for a couple of games, I think.
Now, all right, look, of course, Tierney is the long-lost, forgotten player. He hasn't played for a long time, especially with this group of players and the way we play. I get all of that, but I don't know if it would have made sense maybe to play him at least bit part of the game, especially with Martinelli on that side. It could have worked. We don't know. We just don't know, because I remember they had a good relationship very early days when they first came along, when Embry was in charge. And I'm not saying that would have worked, Jack. I'm trying to picking at straws a little bit here, but it's just an idea that I'm coming out with. And I also feel still the same about Trossard, where he seems to be better at coming on as a sub, but he seemed to play him first and let Martinelli come in afterwards. And, obviously, Martinelli a little bit frustrating yesterday, as we all have mentioned. But I just those kind of little cut thoughts there, because Partey, for me, still should be playing in the midfield, despite his good performances as a right back. It just doesn't make sense to me. So I think there were options, but I hear what you're saying. I'm just trying to think out the box a little bit with Tierney. Maybe it could have. Otherwise, what's the point of having him on the bench? What's the point? I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me. But there you go. As far as the drop points, I think it's. Look, Fulham are no mugs. They're a good team at home. They've got some good results against strong teams. But I think the way we were coming off of a good run with the momentum, and then with the knowledge that Liverpool are not playing, with the knowledge that City have dropped points, these kind of games you've got to win. Jack, you've got to win them, especially to try and claw back a deficit, to try and make a gap between your other rival or rivals, because at the moment Chelsea are looking quite threatening. And titles are won against teams like this as well, Jack. It's no good. We seem to have a reverse effect from a few years ago. Before, we could never beat the top 6 or the top 4, whatever. It was never. They had such a poor record. And now it seems that we're doing better against those teams, and it's the smaller teams that's really disrespectful. But the teams which are not of the big 6, and we seem to be falling foul. And people are arguing that Fulham might be a bogey team or whatnot, but we have to win. We have to be winning teams against teams like that. If you want to have a chance, a shot at the title, you've got to. So that was very disappointing. And then just finally on what you're saying about. What was the other thing you said? Set pieces. You can't win titles with set pieces. It's an additional good to have in your armoury, but you can't rely on them to win titles. You show me a stat with the table, I think, of open play, and we're at the bottom of the table or something.
We're ninth.
No, okay, ninth. Yeah. Well, for a team that's going for the title, ninth is probably 7 too low. 7 places too low. We've got to be in the top 3. Or top 4 at least. It's just not enough. I mean, I'm loving it. I'm loving that. With threatening. I think teams are very fearful that every corner. Oh God! And I remember the Man U game. We could have probably scored another 2 or 3 on the corners. Could have actually won 4-5-0. So it's quite amazing what we're doing from them. But it's not the answer to be winning titles or cups or Champions Leagues, Jack. So. I think this argument about not having the striker to score goals consistently, I think is now starting to really, come to the fore for me. Those past 2 seasons, we scored a lot of goals, and maybe the argument was correct by Arteta that we don't need a striker. We're getting goals from everywhere. We scored 89 goals or something, and then we beat our record or something. I can't remember, but it was a lot of goals that we scored last 2 seasons. So I kind of understand it, but I'm sorry, for games like this, you need that striker. So that's the way I see it.
Yeah, no, I guess you're on the fullback one. I mean, Wenger used to always say, don't move more than one piece, didn't he? And I guess we've moved 3 pieces because of the Zinchenko injury. We put Partey to right back, Timber to left back, and Jorginho at the base. And even Arteta has made that argument. So he obviously felt it was absolutely necessary. But yeah, I had no issue with it going into the game. I kind of, if Zinchenko was out, I would expect that back line at that point. But there is something to be said about, we know we play the deepest lines in the league. Like the data says we play the deepest teams in the league. They sit the deepest against us, more than Man City, more than Liverpool. And we also play the highest line in the league, so it's most congested territorially. So we know what we're coming up against now. So I feel sometimes Mikel Arteta is so fixated on control. We control games so well. Like it's actually quite incredible how, like, when you're watching this game, you're like, they have not had a sniff. I mean, I'd love to know deep down what Fulham fans are sitting there are thinking when they're watching this in comparison to what they've seen this season. Because in fairness, despite the fact we didn't create enough from open play, they must have been delighted with that. I mean, they had like 3 touches in our box in the whole game. It was complete dominance in terms of territory. The problem with that is when you dominate so much, and I do think we are a team that is exuding that sort of Man City-esque quality of just watching games and you're just like, we are so overly dominant. But when you're dominating that much, you should be creating far more chances on goal, and you should be testing the goalkeeper, who in this case, you know what I think of Bernd Leno, you should be testing those biscuit hands consistently. And when I think back to the game, I'm like, I don't really recall him making a great save. He had one from the first half from Saka, which was a little darting run, and he hit it with his right foot. Obviously the goal, which we'll get to. And I don't recall him making any. I mean, that's because a lot of our shots and our sort of set pieces that we should have scored from and got on target were wayward. But I just feel a lot of our players are, we're waiting for that perfect opportunity to just open up. I was like, you've got to take shots when they're sitting that deep. I want 3 or 4 players that are unbelievable at shooting from the edge of the area and that do it without a fault, instinctively, and we just don't have it, and this is where the purchasing of attackers is going to come back to haunt him, or at least the critique of it's going to be there, because if you don't strengthen your attack, especially even if we scored 90 goals last season or whatever it was, you're going to get questioned on it, because there games like this existed last season where we struggled to create, and we had that long period where we were like, we're never going to score again kind of thing, and then Dubai happened, and obviously we know what happened after that, but that happened for a reason. The personnel didn't change. There was a reason behind that, and it was very frustrating. We've had games where, in fairness, this was no way near our worst game of the season or anything like that. It wasn't Newcastle or Bournemouth where we just didn't create a thing. But those games still exist, those Newcastle and the Bournemouth ones. You can't have that as a title-winning side where you just don't create in a game. And I feel like when we've got all our technical players on the pitch, I'm watching it going, we don't have enough variety in our football to create. And I think, Neil, to be honest, when I watch it, I mean, my brother will argue with me about Saka and he needs to do it every game, this, that and the other, but you have to really look at our centre forward, who I don't think looks anything like he did in the last 6 months of last season. And I blame partially Arteta for that, because he's been moving him around all over the place, and I don't think he's really had a real rest since the Euros, to be honest. I think he's looked quite tired since early days in the Premier League season this season, so I don't want to put it all onto Kai Havertz, but I thought his movement was so poor in this game, Neil. I just felt he was so stagnant, and then when he did move, he was offside, and I was so frustrated with him. I was like, your movement's got to be better, and if we're going to do all those crosses, when we're attacking territorially, who are you crossing to? It's not the defenders, because they're going to be sitting back. So it's got to be your centre forward, and we don't have that killer instinct in the box. He's never going to have that. He's never going to have that instinctiveness of where to be, where to place his body, that kind of stuff. And I know he created the assist, but I actually think he took that on as a shot, to be honest. I'm not certain he heads it down to Sleeper at all. I think he's trying to head it to the far post. It's fine, it's a good assist, but there's so many times where we're crossing into the box, I'm like, that's where Kai Havertz should be, and he wasn't there, and he wasn't present. Yeah, I mean, we've gone over this before, Neil, but we're lacking that player, aren't we? And that player doesn't exist in the squad because it's not Trossard, it's not Gabriel Jesus, and we don't have that player, do we? And it's unlikely we're going to find that player in January, probably.
No, we don't. The Kai Havertz thing, I agree. I don't think he's been the same player for the last few. Like, it could be fatigue. It could be, again, as you said, a mix of moving him around, not leaving him in one place, which isn't the best for a player, especially when we know his strengths are as a false nine. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know whether you just completely blame him. You can't go from being a very, very good player. I've always said, haven't I, that for the most part of this year, he's been probably one of our players of the season, if not the player of the season. He was always there and thereabouts with every single goal, literally. Not just the ones he assisted or scored, even the ones that they involved some build-up to a goal that was assisted and scored by other players. So I don't want to critique him or criticise him too much, but certainly there's been a drop. As to what the reason is for that, I don't know. But I think I said it on the WhatsApp. You can't just rely on Saka and Havertz, and that's it. Constantly, you've got to have. When you're playing this many games, we've got 3 other strikers on the books. Now, I don't know what that stat is, but I was just asking for this calendar year. Trossard, Martinelli, Jesus. How many goals have they scored? All 3 of them. I don't think it's more than 20 between them in 12 months. I mean, I just find that a little bit embarrassing. You know, they're all internationals and they're all, you know, good players. Or I won't say world class, but they're all very good players. And I'd love to know what that stat is. What they've in the last year, how many goals they've scored for Arsenal together. But I don't think it's very high, and I think that's where our problem lies. You know, it's not good enough, Jack. I mean, when Trossard first came along, he was absolutely brilliant. I thought he was one of our best January signings ever, if not the best. I was saying that on countless times. I loved him. I've always backed Martinelli, thinking, you know, I just want this boy to go on and become one of the best strikers, if not the best in the world. And Jesus, yeah, we all knew that he was brilliant when he first started, but he seems to have not really evolved with Arteta's style of play, where before, you said it nicely, when it was chaotic, he was great. When there's been some kind of structure going forward, he's not been as effective. But you've always said that he's a hard-working guy. But you're paid as a forward, Jack. You're paid to put balls in the net and create and be up there. And like you said, get on the end of crosses. And if you're not doing that, what are you doing? We can't have our defenders having better goal statistics than our forwards, because that's not their job. Right, it's great to see it happen. We all are so happy for Gabriel and even Saliba now scoring goals, but at the same time, they're doing their job at the back. You know, defensively, we haven't been bad. There's still a very, very good, if not the best, defensive duo out there. And as centre-backs, as a pairing of centre-backs. Their job is not to score goals, Jack. And when you see that their goal statistics might be on par or better than a couple of our strikers, that's not good or a good omen for a title-winning contender or a title contender. It just doesn't make sense to me, Jack. And the other thing, just to touch on, you're saying about we are a very, very good in, you know, as possession football. The possession football team, we completely dominated. Yeah, you're right. We completely dominated that game. But I feel when Odegaard isn't there, we're the opposite. We're more off the ball. And then, you know, it's difficult for us to control games in that way. We might control games off the ball, but it's when Odegaard is that good for me, is that good. He changed everything.
He had a poor game, didn't he, Neil? Odegaard, in fairness. He had a poor game.
Wasn't that after remember he picked up a knock?
Yeah, and I think that's the only reason he took him off, actually.
Yeah, and I'm a bit worried about that.
Yeah, because if it's his ankle again, you know, that might be time. And But to be honest, watching it, I was like, I'd have no. There's a few I could have picked, but I'd have no problem with Odegaard coming off at the 60th and putting Ranieri on. I mean, some people say I think he's got that ability now. Like if it's not the game where Odegaard's ticking, he's not going to tick in every game. He was getting pressurised. His passing was just a little bit off. He wasn't finding those openings. I thought our movement was poor in front of him, other than Saka, who I think did okay. Not great, but did okay. I thought Trossard was really poor. I thought Martinelli was worse when he came on, and we'll get to those two. But feel free to take him off. And I've been saying for a while, and I think we talked about it offline, that we should, because the left wing is such a problem for us, and I do think it is a problem, shouldn't disregard putting Ranieri out there. Young players, typically Wenger used to do this a lot. I hate going back to it, but he with young technical players, he'd often play them out wide. Right? He did it with Wilshere. He did it with Wilshere early doors, didn't he? He never played him central midfield for a while, especially in those early pre-season games, the Emirates Cup. Play him out wide, and when they're so good technically, anyway, these players, and Ranieri is one of those, they'll find their way out wide. They will, and it will improve them in the long term anyway. So, I mean, at the moment, I'd love to use Ranieri as a wide option. I'd much rather see him coming off the bench than Gabriel Jesus out wide and things like that, and I think we should be considering that, and I hope he does. But yeah, it wasn't a game for Odegaard really, and that's okay. That's okay. That's going to happen. I think every game can't literally be filtered for him, but when it is, pull him off sooner. Pull him off sooner, and see if we can adapt and adjust. I mean, in the first half, then we didn't create a ton. Obviously, we should probably talk about their goal. Where do you lay the blame on their goal? It's a long ball forward from Leno, a nice layoff from Jimenez, who then finds the ball again, and I think it's Iwobi who plays that through ball. I have a bit of an issue with Kivior's positioning, to be honest. When I watch it back and I pause it, my thought process when I first watched it back was, you have to make sure you cut the ball down the line out, because if he plays it inside of you, Saliba will get to it. But if he plays it down the line of you, there's no way Saliba can cover it at that point. Your gap's too far, and he needs to be a bit more aware. But I don't think he does enough. I don't think Timber does, and Trossard do great in pressurising Iwobi, but it's kind of a transition moment, so it's difficult. But I don't think Kivior does anywhere near enough to cut that ball out, and he's not the strongest or the fastest, so he needs to be much better positionally, I think, there. But then some people play on Timber and Raya and things like that. I think it's a great finish after that, to be honest. But what's your thoughts?
Yeah, we got to applaud the finish, because that was class. And he did it last season, and then he scored against us last season.
Give yours fold that one as well.
Well, there you go. We just blame Kivior then. There you go. It makes it easy. It's an easy answer. I mean, yeah, there could be other people at fault, but I think I'm just trying to ask myself, and I shouldn't do this because Kivior was one of our players too. But if Gabriel was fit and he was playing, would he have done better? I don't know. Maybe, but because I think there's his awareness and his relationship with Saliba is better. But end of the day, can we put so much blame on Kivior when he hasn't played that much? And to be fair, when he has had to come on, apart from a couple of that one goal that he was responsible for, who was it against? Oh gosh, one of the teams that we lost to, Bournemouth. Who was it against? Where he their second goal?
When he gave the ball away in the penalty.
Yes,
yeah, it's Bournemouth. Yeah.
So that was a mistake, and he hasn't done that much wrong. But do we put that much blame on a player that is literally a bit part player? I don't know, because I'm sure if Tierney had been playing and he did it, we would just say straight, yeah, look, it's his fault. I don't know if you can lay all the blame to him. There's argument that Saliba could have been a bit tighter as well, just at the last minute. But like you said, is he going to be getting that ball? Is he going to have the energy and the speed to catch up? But normally we do talk about Saliba, how fast he is, even though he looks quite slow on the pitch. But for me, this is how I thought, and I might be completely wrong. I just felt we were so dominant in that first 8, 9, 10 minutes. I actually don't think we expected it from them, because we were that controlling. And I don't know whether it's down to a little bit of complacency and a little bit of naivety at the back, thinking, they're not going to do anything like this. And then wham, it just happens in the blink of 5 seconds, so quickly. And I put it down to a little bit of complacency and naivety as well as maybe poor positioning from a couple of our defenders. So that's where I'll lay the blame. I don't want to completely just pull everything on maybe Kiwi or Saliba or whoever it is, but I just think that they just hit us and we didn't expect it. And I think it took us by surprise. That's what I felt. And it's a shame because I then felt that after that, although we were still kind of got into the stride of dominating, getting that back, I felt from there it wasn't as effective. I think the first few minutes, we were very good. We were very, very good. So it changed the game for me. And like you said, when we go 1-0 down, we tend not to be as good or as effective as when we take the lead in games. So that's another thing maybe we need to address.
Yeah, last season, I remember probably early on before Raya came in, saying we had a conversation about we concede so few chances and yet we still concede a lot of goals. And even when Raya came in, it continued to happen for a little while, and then we really kind of started to shut out. And I still feel that way this season, but I don't put it on the goalkeeper. I think David Raya arguably has been our best player this season, to be honest. And I didn't put this goal particularly on him, whereas sometimes I would put it on Ramsey. I'd be like, that was a savable shot and that kind of stuff. And I did believe that for a large period of time. But now I just look at it and I see so many top teams giving up so many more bigger chances than us, and I think, well, how if you think about it, we've had a lot of chances where you're just like, wow, how did you concede from that moment, that one moment in the whole game? Even when do you remember playing the Southampton and Leicester at home, and they had that was, what was it, Justin had like a volley from 30 yards, top bins, and I was like, he'll never do that again. West Ham a week or two ago, free kick 30 yards out, Emerson. He'll never do it again. He'll never do it again. Then I'm just watching it going, how are we conceding from these sort of half-chance moments, And there's been a lot of those this season where you're just like scratching your head. You're like, you've not get. But the issue with that, Neil, and Arteta says it at the end of the game, he's like, this is football. Anything can happen at any moment. And I'm like, but if you know that, and you know it's so imbalance, what you want to do is, he said, what we've got to do is make sure that they don't even get that one chance. And I was like, but you're never going to do that. You can't exhibit more control than what we've got there. What 0.11 XG? I mean, it's unheard of away from home in a London derby, that sort of chance, limiting a team to that sort of chance creation. So when you have to delve into, I'm going to create even more at the other end, because the more volume I can create at the other end, when they do get that moment, if it does happen, it doesn't matter because it's 3-0. And that's my frustration. I think he's so fixated on control that he's not willing to take the handbrake off a little bit more and just run with it and go with it. Because if we do that, yeah, we might give up one or two more chances, but we will create bucket loads more. And I'm sitting here saying that, knowing in the league we've created the most big chances, but when you take the set pieces away, we're ninth, and that's just not good enough for open play chances. You can't be ninth there. You can't be sitting there in mid-table with open play chances created with all the sort of attacking talent we've got on the pitch. But you're right, now as soon as it goes 1-0, you know exactly what you're in store. They're going to drop even deeper. They know they've got something to hold on to now, and it's going to, spaces are going to become harder and harder for us to find. And I think at that point, I understood keeping Trossard on the pitch, so I do think he was really quite poor in the game, and it was understandable when he got hooked off. But I do think the involvement of Marino and when did Marino come on? He came on around the 73rd minute, and Winieri around the 78th minute. I just felt that could have happened earlier. I felt, was Jorginho necessary there? At that point, get them on earlier, because Marino, we already know, can create from the 8. He's comfortable in that position. He likes to try to play those incisive passes, and we know Winieri's all about that. On the edge of the box, he wants to take shots, he wants to dribble, he wants to run at them. He's different to what we've got. I felt those changes should have happened a little bit sooner for me, but we got the early breakthrough in the second half, or relatively early. I don't know what minute it was, 50th, 60th, 55th, 60th minute. And that was a marginal call as well that went our way, Neil, so we can't moan too much about the marginal call late on. I've heard some other people on Twitter saying, all the marginal calls feel like they're not going our way, and I tend not to agree with that statement, just simply because if you're relying on marginal calls, then you're not doing enough in games to win them. Like, you shouldn't be relying on marginal calls to win out games, you know. But I do also agree with this sort of mild adage that you do when you see stuff like the goal at the end getting disallowed, and you know, the red cards that we had that we're never going to see again. By the way, Calvin Bassey did exactly the same thing. He makes a foul in the first half, picks the ball up, delays it. Same ref that sent off Rice for a toe poke that went an inch, and he doesn't book him. And then what happens? 60 minutes later, Bassey does get booked. Doesn't help us at all, but guess what game he's banned for? Liverpool away next week. There you go, perfect. There you go. And that, you know, that's the story of the season, isn't it? Really, Saliba, red card. Never see it again. You won't see anyone on a last man on the halfway line giving a red card again all season. It won't happen because distance from goal is already taken into account. You certainly won't see it get overturned on the pitch, no matter what decision it is. So there's all those where you do actually look at it and you go, yeah, you know, this isn't our year really. It's just not our year. We're not getting the rub of the green a little bit. But the marginal call thing bugs me. I mean, the Saliba one was onside, but it was definitely marginal, and that good for him. I mean, that's 2 goals in two games for Saliba. He's definitely stepped up to the plate since Gabriel's popped off. I thought he was very good in this game as well, to be honest. I know he had that one moment with the Jimenez one where, you know, maybe he hesitated to slide across because he maybe thought he was going to give a foul or penalty away, or Jimenez was going to cut inside. But I don't know. I find it hard to blame him too much there, to be honest. But he gets the goal, and at that point you've got plenty of time, Neil. I just think you've got plenty of time. You're not creating a ton. We had a couple. I mean, Partey should have scored again from a couple of set pieces, shouldn't he? You know, open header and wide, and just frustrating. We can't test the goalkeeper from some of these, but it was all sort of crosses and set plays that we were creating our big chances through, really, wasn't it? So yeah, my frustration was that. I mean, what do you put it down? What can we change within the team to create more from open play? Well, I mean, we've not really argued about this for the last 3 games where we've scored 15 goals, so I can't say this is like an ongoing daily problem that we're talking about. But we're going to come up in a lot of game situations like this where we dominate the game, the other team catches a goal on a break, and boom, we come up against the deepest block, you know, ever, and we need to find solutions to it. And I'm not sure. The problem I've got is it can't be, if it's a personnel issue, we can't correct it, I don't think, unless it's, you know, the Mourinhos and the Ranieri's that we just mentioned. So how do we correct that? It's not an easy problem to solve, is it?
How do we correct it? We have to be more balanced on the left as we are on the right. If you look at the game yesterday, it was all right. It was all on the right hand side. Everything was on the right, hardly anything down the left. That's where we need to correct it, because it's become too one-dimensional again. And even Fulham's defending set up that way. They knew that we were going to be focused on the right-hand side, and the majority of their players were leaving loads of gaps on the left when we were attacking, because they knew nothing was coming from that side of the pitch. That's what we've got to do to try and create more. That's it. It's a simple answer, because you can't. I'm feeling we're putting too much pressure in on 2 players, and that being Odegaard and Saka. Far too much pressure in these types of games. You know, there's got to be an outlet on the other side as well. And this is where, you know, the argument then comes in again. Do we need to invest in someone on the left, or do we try Ethan? And I don't think that's a bad answer, because very much like Saka, when he first started, he could play in any position on that pitch and he excelled in it. Do you remember?
Yep. Right.
And I think Ethan's of the same calibre of player and mindset. And I think he would do well. Even he would be more than happy to go and play down that side. So if we're not going to be looking to buy another forward and we're going to get another defender in the January window, well then Arteta, don't be afraid of using him on that side, and maybe put the other one, the other youngster there behind him, and maybe the 2 of them together might become very prolific on the left. How do you know that they won't? Because you don't have the guts or the trust to try them. So, you know, there is that. It's difficult for us to sit here and understand or come up with solutions when you've got a manager being paid God knows how many millions a year that really should be doing that, you know. And the other thing, yes, I agree, Partey missed a couple of chances, which really should be hitting the target. I do get that. But this is where the forwards, Where are our forwards? They're the ones that should be putting the ball in the net. They should be getting on the end of these delicious crosses. Let's put a few positives in this game. Those crosses that we put into the box, whether they be from a free kick, Rice did another one as well. It's just when it just seemed to miss everyone. That was delicious.
Partey was the furthest forward. I know what you're talking about. Thomas Partey was the furthest forward for that. And I lost it because I was like, "Where are you, Kai? Why is our right back the furthest player forward?"
This is what I'm trying to say. You can't blame Thomas Partey. Is not Gabriel, Saliba, Partey. They're more defensive players, Jack. Yeah, Partey's going to score that wonder goal now and again where he has a shot from range like he's done a few times, which is always lovely to see and it makes us all happy. But at the end of the day, in the box, it should be our forwards getting on the end of those crosses, Jack. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm old school. I don't know. But we're sitting here saying, Partey missed a couple. He might have. But where was Kai Havertz? Where was Trossard? Where are those players? All right, Trossard's not the tallest. But, you don't have to be the tallest in football to be scoring goals. We know that from some of the greatest players that has ever lived. And the other unfortunate thing for me is we still don't have, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we have that player to come off the bench or a player on the pitch that can turn a game within a second. Alexis Sanchez might be our last one that I can remember really effective at that. And Giroud did it. Giroud used to come off the bench and he would score some good goals. But do we have that player anymore? I don't know. I don't think so. So, I think that's where, if you ask me the question of how can things get better, I think we need to be more effective on the left as we are on the right. If we have that, we'll be devastating. And we'll create more. And then we do need to get someone up front, or whether that be putting Ethan up there. I don't know, because this Martinelli-Trossard pairing, and Jesus, all right, we know that Jesus doesn't feature much anymore anyway, but he is first choice Martinelli/Trossard, rotating them. Maybe you should stop doing that, because they're not getting a feel for having a run of games, starting a game, if that makes sense. It's one or the other. So maybe we should say, right, Trossard, you are going to be the one that's coming on as a sub. Martinelli, you're starting. I don't know what the answer is, Jack. I'm not a manager, but I just think that we are too concentrated on the right-hand side when it comes to attacking.
Oh, yeah. And there was some data came out today about the amount we sort of focused down the right-hand side. And in this game particularly, it was very, very shifted down that side. But look, Bukayo Saka had 72 touches in the game, and Leandro Trossard had 35. Martinelli came on and had 26. So it's all going down the right hand side, and we're relying really heavily on Saka. And he's our most creative outlet in terms of outputting goals and assists, whether it's set pieces or not. I think he could have done better in this game, but if anything was coming, it was coming through him. He should have walked away with a goal, and as well, a great move and a movement from him, and it would have been a great goal, and it was devastating when it got called offside. But Neil, I think the pent-up frustration with Martinelli, and I know he didn't start this game, so I don't want to disregard Trossard, because I do think he's a bit wasteful on the ball. He has openings at times where I think he's too selfish. I've noticed that more and more since he's got more starts in the team this season, personally, ever since the Villa goal. Sometimes I just think, there's so many players on for him to pass to when he's in front of goal, and he's taking these shots from 20, 30 yards. And I know I'm saying we should shoot more, but sometimes there's some great players in great positions, and I'm just finding he's playing a little bit more for himself. And I didn't notice that in him last season. But I think the pent-up frustration with Martinelli being offside is not just that he shouldn't have been offside. It's his performance was really poor leading up to it. So he gets a yellow card for a stupid throwing down on the ball when it clearly comes off him. I don't know what the frustration is there. We need to score a goal. You're wasting time. And then I think he starts mouthing off to the ref a little bit later on or something. I think someone mentioned where he could have got sent, maybe. So his head wasn't quite right, but beyond that, I thought he was wasteful with the ball when he came on. His crosses were poor, and ironically, the one cross that is beautiful from him is the one that he's offside for. But when you're standing still like that, I've seen all the excuses of Timber took an extra touch or Batty moved forward. You are standing still right, as a winger, I played left wing, a very low, much lower level. You literally get told when you're on the last line of defenders, in that sort of position, you're looking across the line. Do not be offside. He's fast. Give yourself an extra yard. You're not running either. You're not running off someone. You're standing still. There is no need to even be close to the last man of the defender. You can step out wide, step back in a little bit, and collect the ball there. It's not going to change a thing. So that is so frustrating, and he is offside, and it's not particularly close, I don't think, either. But what's so unfortunate, after it, he does everything right, and it's a fantastic finish from Saka, but it doesn't count, and I just think it's a representation of where we are at with Martinelli, and someone that we're struggling to trust fully. And I know, I was shocked Arteta didn't call him out for it, to be honest, because he's called him out for much less stuff this season already. But I expect behind closed doors it might be a little bit different. But Neil, what are your thoughts on that extremely frustrating end to the game?
I've got nothing to add, Jay. You summed it up perfectly. I mean, at the end of the day, he doesn't need to be anywhere close to the man because he's got so much pace. Especially someone who's pacey, who's got pace in his locker. That's part of what makes him who he is. So why does he need to be so close to the line? I mean, he could be, as you said, a couple of feet back, and he'd still be fine. He'd still make it up to collect the ball. And that, I think that's probably. I would have rather now he would watch this cross and we didn't have this chance to score but then we won't be talking about it, I guess. But yeah, it's such a shame because actually everything after that was such a lovely goal to see. I mean, I was like, you know what? Normally nowadays, this is the irony for me. I don't celebrate goals anymore because I know, especially with us, VAR's going to get involved. So I keep quiet. My God, I used to jump and scream and shout and all sorts of maniac stuff that I'd do when we'd score goals. I just sit there thinking I'm waiting for VAR to rule it out. And this one, I went mad. My fault. I jinxed it. And then I'm like, I said, yes, we've done it. Wow, we can just forget about all of the missed chances and all the stuff, that negatives of this game, and we've done it. It paid off. And then what happens? And I'm thinking, and I feel exactly like you. It's just not our year. Like you said, the red cards of decisions which are never going to be given again, and all of that kind of stuff. The officiating,
last minute conceding at City,
injuries as well. We're having again. That isn't something we can't legislate for. We can't blame anyone really. We've had a rotten luck of injuries. This is how many? Oh, they said on Match of the Day. Is it our 9th set of back four? Or combination of 11?
Yeah, I bookmarked that.
Ridiculous.
Sorry. Carry on talking, Neil. I'll get that to you. I followed that.
Stupid. So you've got no consistency at the back. We don't really have a consistent lineup at the front either, do we?
We've had 9 different back
there you go,
in 15 games. And there's only 2 back fours that we've had have played more than one league game together.
Wow. Yeah. So look, there you go.
That's our 5th choice centre back, by the way, Kivior. We did great midweek, and I gave him his points on the instant reaction. To me, Kivior is our 5th choice centre back because White's our 3rd. I believe Tomiyasu is our 4th, and Kivior would be our 5th. And in terms of left backs, I mean, midweek who do we play? He's probably our 4th choice left back too. So it's just mental, mate.
It's crazy. And then even at the front, I mean, we keep being indecisive. It's going to be Trossard. It's Martinelli. It's going to be Trossard. It's constant changes. Midfield, we didn't have Rice for a while, did we? We didn't have Odegaard for a while. 2 of arguably our best players from last season didn't have them. So. People say, you're only better because Odegaard and you're a one-man team. Well, it's not, because we've had so many players out. I bet you if we had a consistent 11 and we had a little bit of luck with some of those decisions, which are never going to be given again, and then some of those goals which are worldies, which are then never going to be scored again, I think it'll be a different table we'll be looking at personally. But, it's all ifs and buts, and we are where we are. But with Martinelli, for me, forget his play. What annoyed me about him yesterday was even when they scored and we were 1-0 down, there's a little moment where he's captured on camera. He's smiling. When their goals.
This was when he was on the bench, was it?
Yes, he's smiling.
Yeah, some people had an issue with him at the end of the game.
Yeah, so I mean, all right, okay.
Waving and clapping and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, all right. There's that, but I don't like a player that, you should be angry when you go down. You are. I again always refer to the Tony Adams thing, that when we are playing, those 9 months of the season, you are fully focused on football and nothing else. Nothing else. We're an army of players and we have got to behave like that. And I don't like all this happy stuff and niceties and all that during the season. I'm sorry, maybe after the game you can have a bit of that, but during a game, it's war. And he should be frowning and being annoyed. Why are we 1-0 down? It doesn't matter if you're not, that's not your role. You're not a defender, but you are part of this group that are trying to achieve something. It really paid me off when I saw that. I thought, what are you laughing at? What are you laughing at, man? What's there to laugh about? Something to celebrate here. So I think that annoyed me as well, apart from all the stuff about his attitude and his play and what he's doing. And I agree. I think he is. It's a bit of a balance you've got to get. Sometimes you do have to be selfish, Jack, and you do have to, not worry about passing, because that's what makes the great strikers. And they have that balance where sometimes they think, I'm going to just take the shot here, and it works out. But there's other times where you've got to be a bit more aware and a bit more cuter with your decision making. And I think it's his decision making which needs a lot of work on. And look, let's be honest, how long has he been with us? He's been with us a few years now, right? Have you seen any progression from him? I haven't.
In the last 18 months. Nah. Obviously you had that season where him and Saka hit double figures for numbers, and you thought you had 2 elite wingers in the making. And in my opinion, Saka's gone from strength to strength since then, and Martinelli hasn't. And I think Mick Arteta knew about this then. Because we were linked to top wingers then. The frustration is he's never been able to pull the trigger on one that he wanted. We went from Rafinha to Mudryk, which was worrying, to be honest, to Neto to Williams, and we've never been able to find that winger. But no one's ever sat there. When we went after Rafinha, we never really sat there and thought, why are we trying to buy a 65 million winger when we've got Martinelli and Saka who just scored 15 goals apiece in this season? It wasn't to replace Saka. And Rafinha wasn't coming to sit on the bench. So who's he coming in for, And he's been trying to do that for you. I mean, if it's not the next thing we'll do, I don't know what to say at that point, to be honest. And centre forwards, another one we should be looking at. I like Kai Havertz. I like him a lot, but he can't be doing it all on his own. I'll say that much. So, you need something different to him. You need that clinical killer in the box that can complement what he offers in terms of his link-up play, etc. But also, give his legs a break, because it's too much to put all of that onto one player. You've got to be able to rotate him out. And the games are just ridiculous at the moment in terms of, it's non-stop. And what he asks of his number 9 is crazy as well. That's not something that should be playing 3 times a week. But yeah, it goes back to, we did not strengthen the attack, and look, we've got Raheem Sterling sitting there in midweek, and this, in this game he's jacket on, and I know he's alone and last minute, and I don't think we need to think, how much have we wasted here, because it's not a deal that we've necessarily spent a huge fortunes on, but it does bring back to the fact of we didn't strengthen our attack. We didn't prioritise it for whatever reason. I know we wanted attackers again, Sesko and Williams, but unless you sign them, as far as I'm concerned, that priority hasn't been fulfilled. You've not gone through with it for whatever reason. I'm sure we wanted tons of players in different positions, but we never. Unless you actually sign them, it doesn't matter. And in the end, we ended up getting a left back. Calafiori, who I think's great, but was he a necessity? I don't think he was. And even if he was, someone should have sat there and said, you've got enough left backs on the book, so let's get the attacker that we can get in first of all, and let's see what we've got left over for that defender. Man City, they won the treble and they went and spent 60 million on Doku. Now I know this is a doped club on steroids, but generally speaking, top clubs, they always tend to strengthen their attack even when they've had a really good season and won something. I know Liverpool didn't really, they kind of did what we did this year, but they didn't really do much anywhere. But I can't remember, but I'm guessing the year after they won the league or the Champions League, I think they went and got Darwin Núñez for 85 million or Jota, and that kind of thing. So they continue to spend. They've spent about 220 million since we spent about 60 under Arteta on the attackers. It's just not enough. It's just not enough. If he thinks he's going to produce it through what we have, I think that ship's starting to sail with Martinelli, to be honest, because he looks really one-dimensional to me. And when you're and he knows it, that's why he's playing Trossard there. But Trossard he was never bought to be the continual starter. And I think the reason he was so good last season was because he fulfilled the role that we expected of him in a way. You know, you were like, you are this super sub, and every now and then you're going to get a start. But if you don't, you're going to be that 12 men off the bench. And he loved that. And now we're giving him this sort of added responsibility. I don't think it's working great for us or him, really. And that's all because we didn't strengthen the attack. You know, we got rid of a lot of players. One of them played today, Smith Rowe. To be honest, in fairness, you didn't notice Smith Rowe at all in this game. I mean, he barely had a touch, came off at about the 60th minute. I mean, but you didn't notice a lot of their players, other than Jimenez with a finish. You really didn't. It was one-way traffic, but you don't create enough from open play, and it's costing us. So now, I mean, it leaves us, oddly enough, Neil, because we had the Man U winning midweek and then Liverpool had their game postponed. It kind of leaves us where we were at the start of the week in terms of being 9 points off, doesn't it? Because obviously, you know, they're expected to win their game in hand and stuff like that. The problem, like you say, though, is, you know, they're almost faultless at the moment, and when do you get those opportunities to catch up a couple of points on a team or put pressure on them because you'd have a game, you know, an extra game played against them or over them, and now it's extremely frustrating. But we have to find our way to bounce back, Neil, because we've got a really, really important game in midweek against Monaco, which I think you're going to, and we have to find a way to win that, don't we? Because if we don't, one, our qualification into the top 8 is going to be under threat, but also, you know, it'd be really nice to be able to win our home games here and have a game where you don't necessarily have to play your big guns, wouldn't it?
I think that's the key now. I think because we've had so many games to contend with, one of those games would be nice, wouldn't it? It's just bang on loads of fringe players. Hopefully he does it. He didn't do it was it last year where he could have
PSV,
yeah, he took 3 youngsters and he didn't start any of them. Come on, Arteta, wake up. When you don't need to win a game, just do that, please. Because it kills 2 birds with one stone. It gives those youngsters or those fringe players a game and some minutes, which is crucial in their development and for the club as a whole. If you do suffer more injuries and you need to fill gaps. And then, of course, it gives your main players a bit of a rest from a really hectic season. So it would be very important, useful and important to get the points against Monaco. I don't think there's anything else to say about it. We just need to try and shore up that position as quickly as we can, so that we can, you know, lay our focuses back on the Premiership, which is obviously very important as well. Because, all right, look, we're not going to be talking about titles anymore and stuff, because I think as it stands at the minute, we are too far behind. I know it's still early in the season and anything can happen. I'm not saying we write us off completely, but I think as it stands at the moment, we've just got to focus on, you know, creating more, like you've said, Jack, you know, giving us a chance to put some goals away and keep, you know, giving good performances. I'm not saying yesterday's performance was bad, but just be a little bit more clinical up front, I guess. And that just gives us a better standing with a chance. If then the other teams do drop points, then we're there to capitulate, to capitalise on that. And I think we can only do that if we have less pressure on ourselves in other competitions. So you're right. I think you're spot on with that. Let's get the win against Monaco. Then I think we've got, I don't know who we've got after that. Do you know who it is after Monaco?
Everton.
No, in the Champions League.
I think is it Zagreb?
Oh, is it? Okay.
Is it Zagreb? Oh, I could be wrong.
I think that's winnable as well, Jack, to be fair. I just wanted to know.
I think it's Zagreb at home.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, my computer on the other end is freezing on the Arsenal fixture list.
It is, you're right, on the 26th of January. So there's actually quite a big gap now.
Yes, the last game of the year, I guess, in the Champions League. Right. So,
yeah, I mean, look, let's not give ourselves any pressure, because I think this is the last thing we need to do. After I think the players are going to be pretty downbeat after that draw, because it feels like a loss, Jack. Let's be honest. Yeah. And I think we want to capture again those 4 games that we just had before the Fulham game. Get that energy and that dynamism back into the team, and then get that win, so we can kind of forget about the Fulham game, put that behind us. It's one of those things. It's happened now. can't do anything about it. And then that will help us also go forward into the next Premiership clash that we've got. So hugely important. If you want a prediction, I'll say 2-0.
Oh yeah, who's your first scorer? I'll probably do a prediction for the Everton one in a second as well. But who's your?
Okay. I'll go with Saka. Saka for Monaco.
Monaco are a good side. I mean, they're second in League One, and they are. Sorry, I'm just going to get the Champions League standings up. But I believe they are quite high up in the Champions League standings as well. They're in the top 5, aren't they?
Oh really?
Yeah, they're a good side. No, sorry, they're 8th. We're 7th. They're 8th.
Oh, so we're actually just okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, so they've done well. I don't know who they've played in the Champions League. Oh yeah, that's what happened. They were 2-1 up against Benfica, and then they got a red card and lost. Otherwise, they would have been 3rd or 4th.
Oh wow.
So they've done really well. I'm trying to see if they've played any sort of the big guns in there. They played Bologna and beat them. They played Zagreb and drew with. Oh, they beat Barcelona. They beat Barcelona. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they beat Barcelona.
That changes to 1-0.
Yeah. I know. No, they are. I know they are a good side. They've got some good players, and it's definitely not an easy game at all. So I'll take that all day. 2-0. Just 2 things on the game that I didn't mention. Just really quick things. One, never wear that kit again. I don't know what it is. We've played in it once before, haven't we? And we didn't win. Do we play at Bournemouth in it?
Yeah, I think
we did. As soon as I saw us in it, I went, oh no. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes the third kit rubs off on you, all right. I remember when we wore the pink kit for the first game of the season a couple of years back, and we won in it, and I was great with it after that. I was like, wear it whenever you want. But I was a bit like this with the green one. Every time we wore the green one last year, I was like, nah. I'm pretty sure we wore the green one when we lost at Fulham last year. I think we did.
Maybe,
yeah, I think we did. So as soon as I woke up and I looked at it, and I thought, oh, it's Monsters Inc. I was like, oh no, put that away. I was like, I don't like the shirt.
Straw's blaming a blooming colour of a shirt now.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. That's just the level
that's what it's
they
reduced
brought me down
to.
Exactly.
Brilliant.
Oh dear. All right, I'll go 2-1 midweek, and I'll go Martinelli. I think he'll probably start. So I know. Well, does anyone need?
I hope so. Yeah.
More Kai. I need him more Kai Havertz to get some.
I would actually. Yeah, he could. He scored though, didn't he? Recently, which game did he score in? He scored one goal. Was it the 5? Was it Lisbon?
Yeah, we scored at Sporting. Yeah, he scored one at Sporting. I can't remember if he scored in the other one in the league. Yeah, did he score at West Ham? I can't remember if he did score at West Ham. Mine's going a blur. It's nice when those games where you score a lot of goals. It's nice if you can't remember who scored them all, which is nice. But let's hope we get back to that. But I'm going 2-1 Martinelli. I wonder if he makes any changes. Hopefully we've got one of Gabriel or Calafiori back. The problem with these injuries is we don't actually know what the injuries are. We've got to the point now where the journalists don't really actually ask us, because they don't think Arteta's going to say anything. They don't even ask the specifics of it. So we don't even know if Gabriel's out because of a concussion or because of some other muscular issue that he's got. They don't ask the question. They just go, oh, he's out, and they go, yeah, he's out. We don't know. We have to speak to the doctors about it. And they don't ask anything else. They just talk about set pieces and Stoke, rather than going. Well, I was like, well, I want to know what's wrong with our players. Can we get an idea for the body part at least? It's same with Calafiori. Absolutely no idea. We think it was a bit of groin or hip tightness, but we don't know. Nothing. And Zinni, same thing. And they're like, oh yeah, he's not feeling good. I'm like,
we'll know tomorrow, right? When he announces.
Yeah, tomorrow. Well, the game's Wednesday, isn't it? So maybe tomorrow. The press conference is probably Tuesday, isn't it? If it's a home game.
Yes, that's it.
So maybe we'll know more or less. I don't know on Tuesday, but I'll go with that. And then Neil, it's a Premier League game against Everton, who have had had 2 weeks off by now, or a week and a half off, or whatever it is, and they came off a big win, I think, against Wolves. So. They'll be fresh, but we've got to be Everton at home. So what's your we've got to find a way. What's your prediction for that one?
Oh, is that another home game? I didn't realise. Okay.
Yes, it is a home game. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that's
double check that, but I think it is. Yeah.
Because when we've gone away to them, it's been a very unpredictable affair, isn't it? Sometimes they'll turn it on against us and we suffer, and then sometimes we're quite convincing out there. So yeah, if it's at home, that's made me feel a bit better now. Thank God.
Fingers crossed.
Nice. Yeah, so if it's at home, I think despite the rest, I just feel that these teams, we should, on paper, we've got so much more, haven't we? We should be able to, despite changes and injuries and swapping players around and doing experiments. I still think we should have more than enough. I'll just be quick. I'll go 2-0 again, actually. So I'll do 2-2-0s on the trot. And this time I will say Kai for Everton. So, yeah, that's what I'll go with.
Okay. I will go 3-1 and Odegaard. I'll go 3-1 Odegaard, for that one. But Neil, let's hope we bounce back. The good thing about this, we haven't bounced back great this season. We had the result at Newcastle and it had a knock-on effect and so on. And so let's hope we do. I do feel this was a relatively sort of good performance, even though we didn't create enough from open play. I'm more concerned about where the creation is landing. Our best chances are going to, centre backs and right backs. Lieber and Partey had our best chances in this game, and you're standing there going, how many chances did we lay on a plate for Saka and Trossard and Havertz, and you can't think of one. There was a couple of moments with Havertz, though, I have to say, where he had what I thought were openings. A ball over the top where if he took it down right, it'd be one-on-one with a goalkeeper, or I don't know if you remember the one to Odegaard. Right? Yeah, and it's just fit his touches off, and he took a shot and it just rolled out of play, and it's kind of like the early Kai Havertz where he's not connecting with the ball, with the ball, and it makes it look like he had one midweek against Man U. We were 2-0 up, so no one really mentioned it, but it was a one-on-one with a goalkeeper chance, and he took it back to the byline and narrowed the angle. By the time he shot at Onana, it just went straight at him at the near post.
Right, I forgot about that.
And right. I was just watching it going, if you just took the ball inside, you'd have a one-on-one from 5 yards.
Has he lost confidence, maybe? I
don't know if he does. It's happened very quickly. I hope not. He doesn't seem like someone that quite sort of nonchalant about it. So the hope is he gets a goal in one of the next two, and we forget all about it. But I think he could do with a rest, to be honest, as well, Neil. So let's see if that happens in the next two. I'm not certain.
But then who comes on? Jesus.
Yeah, exactly, and we can't trust him at the moment, and Mikel Arteta trusts him even less than we do, I think. So there you go. Well, Neil, on to the next one. Fingers crossed we'll be back after the next podcast with on the next podcast after two clever predictions from either Neil or me. And we are at Purely Arsenal FP. We are posting, me and Neil to do soon, some YouTube short instant reaction podcasts, 3, 4, 5 minute ones, and Anthony, our editor, Anthony Palm, who does a great job, he is posting it. We've got a TikTok account, so he's posting up a little 90-second post-match big talking points, and he's chucking it up there on TikTok. But if you follow us at Twitter at Purely Arsenal FP, all the links are posted on there, and if you subscribe to us on YouTube at Purely Arsenal, just you'll see the instant reactions immediately. I try to do a 3 minute, or Neil will try to do a 3 to 5 minute one. After this game I was super disappointed, but I went out and I think I posted one within 5 or 10 minutes after the game. Just chucked out there. To be honest, it wasn't easy to do. I don't know how people do our podcasts immediately after games. I have no idea how they do that, but I can stomach 3.
We've done it. We have done it.
We have done it. I think we mostly did those after a win, but I could be wrong. But
no, I remember once we did it straight after a loss to Tottenham, believe it or not.
Oh, did we really?
Oh, gosh. Yeah. We were saying then, how did we do that? But we applauded ourselves. We gave us a pat on the back for it. We did. Yeah. So we have to be known to do them.
Yep, that's professionals. That's when we both had more time on our hands. Probably. Yeah. All right. Cheers for listening at Purely Arsenal FP. Neil, thank you so much. Keep the faith. Back to winning ways midweek, hopefully. Fingers crossed. Up the Arsenal.